to the pulpit, and the congregation rose. Thick, with hair graying at the temples, the pastor looked more like a truck driver in an uncomfortable and ill-fitting suit, his occupation during the week in between sermons. He smiled at the faithful before giving thanks to the God they gathered to celebrate each Sunday. Andy tuned out the moment the pastor uttered, "Let us pray." Living with his parents because his light hauling service lacked the income to rent a place of his own, he still accompanied his mother to church occasionally. The preaching begun, Andy retreated into daydream, hypnotized by the droning voice of the minister's reverence towards a God Andy wasn't sure existed. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see a nodding congregation affirming the words of Horace Thornbill. Andy's own nods were ones of dozing after a late night in Lila's arms. The word atheist registered in Andy's consciousness. Then foxhole. The pastor rambled on about the fact there were none in the trenches of war because of a soldier's reliance on God in situations of grave danger. Andy, attentive now, remembered cursing himself for not digging in deeper during a mortar barrage that killed the new guy, Calhoun. Pressed against the earthen wall while hearing the whoomp, 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 and waiting for each blast to land, he swore some more for making the hole so wide. What protection is this, leaving so much room for a shell to land beside me? Worried about Sammy, exposed by pulling guard, it was Calhoun that died from a direct hit. Rather than finding God in the foxhole, in despair, Andy searched for pieces of the grunt's body amidst the gore. Not sure at first who'd been killed, he looked at the faces of platoon members at dawn. Finding Calhoun's dog tags in the slime, Andy knew for sure. Mechanically, he sifted through the splattered blood and tissue, confused about how much of it should be placed in the body bag. Did it matter? Angered by the death, he became determined to gather what he could of Calhoun. As Horace continued, Andy noticed the eyes of the congregation furtively looking his way. Not acknowledging the pastor or any glances, Andy stared at the back of the wooden pew in front of him, immersed in his memory of foxholes. Waiting for the last word of the sermon, he bolted to the car, knowing the after-church chit-chat would depress him. He sat and waited for his mother and Henry Clay, trying to compose himself so they wouldn't notice the degree of his withdrawal. "Are you feeling under the weather, dear?" Rebecca asked while Henry Clay drove home in silence. Maybe Dad has an inkling, he thought. Andy just wanted to be alone again and regain the outer equilibrium needed to face the world. How silly a simple-minded sermon about atheists and foxholes had the power to reduce him to a quivering mess on the inside. The episode ended his church attendance. 2 months later, another incident deepened the chasm between the before and after since resuming life in Oklahoma. Yeah, thank you.